What's up guys, and welcome to part 2 of my tutorial mini-series on how to film your camp. Part 2 is going to cover how to edit videos so that it's ready to present to your viewers on YouTube, whatever platform you're using. Part 1 covered how to film your camp in Fallout 76, and there's a lot of processes used in Part 1 that are going to complement this video here in Part 2. So I highly recommend checking out that video first if you haven't seen it. I've put the link, it's on the top right of your screen right now, and it's also in the video description. The footage you see here was also recorded during Part 1 so that you can see the entire process from start to finish. The entire editing process here in Part 2 took me an hour and 40 minutes for this one, and I'll show you at the end what the result looks like. For this video in particular, I didn't do anything crazy. I kept it pretty simple and to the point. When I have more creative ideas, it can take me an additional 1 to 2 hours depending on how extensive that is. If this video gets enough traction, I might pop up a previous couple videos that I've done that are more creative and talk over my thoughts and processes and how I edited those. As a quick preface before I jump in, I recorded Part 1 with my PC using OBS Studio, and for Part 2 here, I'm going to be using my PC as well and editing that with CapCut. I have Premium for additional features, storage, and things like that, but the free version provides you with more than enough options to make a creative and compelling video. But now, let's go ahead and jump into Part 2. So the first step is to trim the fat. You're going to be importing a raw file of your recording that is going to have a lot of unwanted footage. You want to cut out all of that filler footage that wasn't intended to be showcased. This is going to help you understand exactly how much footage you have to work with. This video in particular was imported with 46 minutes of footage, and after carving out my wanted material, it was narrowed down to 14 minutes of good, usable shots. If you're using CapCut, you don't need to know a lot of the features to be efficient and effective at trimming your videos. There are 3 total options that CapCut provides for you. I mainly use 2. The first option is called Split. Wherever you have your line in the video, when you hit the split button, it's going to separate your one clip into 2 separate ones. I use this mainly when I'm looking at good footage, and then I want to stop it just before it ends. Bear in mind that right now, we're just trimming the fat in general. We do need to make this more lean. Remember, I have 14 minutes of footage that I'm working with, and I'm going to condense this down to 4 minutes. But I want to see all of the good material that I have, so I'm going to use all of that good footage, and then I'll continue to carve it out down the road. So just be sure that you don't split your clips too early. Use all of the good footage you have right now. You'll see on the screen, I'm looking at the good footage, and then all I'm gonna do is wait for that moment where the footage starts to look bad. That's when you're gonna see me pause it, roll back a little bit, and then I'm going to split off the bad footage from the good one. So what'll happen is that good footage is going to be on the left side when it's split. This is going to lead me straight to my next main trimming option, and that's called Delete Left. This button is going to take all of the footage that's on the left side of your line of your selected clip, and it's going to delete it. That means that wherever your line was on that clip is now where your footage is going to start. I use this to trim out any of the unwanted footage. The easiest way to think about this is that everything that's to the left of your line is going to get removed, and then everything to the right of your line is what you're going to keep. Keep trimming until you reach the end of your raw video, and now you're going to be able to see exactly how much material you have to work with. Alright, now we have everything laid out for us, and we need to determine how long we're going to make our video. So for really small camps, what I recommend is 2 to 3 minutes in length. For small camps, I would say 3 to 4 minutes. For medium camps, stick around 4 minutes. And then for larger or multi-zone builds, 4 to 5 minutes. But make sure you never extend above 5 minutes. It just becomes too much video for people to stay engaged. You want to aim for clarity over duration, and shorter videos are often just more engaging. Alright, so the next step is to section your scenes. Think about how much time you want to put into each room or area of your build. This build in particular has 3 main areas. First is the building with the shop inside. Second is the hay bale tent with all of my workshop items. And the last is the Ferris wheel, which I chose to end on because it's the highlight of the build. Because I followed my steps from the part 1 video of how I film my camp, I already have these in the correct order, so I have very little rearranging to do between the clips. Everything is already, for the most part, in my desired sequence. Now that I have my visual layout and sequence lined up, the next step is to pick your music. There are a couple approaches that you can take to this, so this is an opportunity where you can be more creative or keep things simple. The easiest approach is to find a song that matches the length of your video, while also fitting the experience that you want to portray to the viewer. If your camp is meant to be calm and relaxing, playing a high energy song just feels out of place. This camp is called the Pumpkin Fair, so for me, it feels fitting to have a Halloween feel to it. I could have played horror music, but this camp isn't meant to be scary, so instead I found some songs that feel Halloween-y, but feel more like a fair. This leads me to my next musical selection choice, which is blending songs together. This is definitely more tedious and can be difficult if you struggle more with musical timing or intuition, but it can be really rewarding in the end, as it creates more diversity in the video, which means more engagement. I chose 3 songs that added up to about 4 minutes, and then I chose the order that sounded best based on the sequence of my scenes. Alright, now we've got our music and we have our scenes both in sequence. So it's time to start doing the real trimming. First I'm going to start by doing a rough trim of each shot along the pace of the music. Syncing your shots with the beat creates better pacing and impact. You'll see me following along with the music and then pausing on the beat in order to figure out where I need to trim my video. For now, I'm just going to be focusing on making each shot fit into the music without paying attention to the length of the song for my scene. I'm basically letting the music help me do more trimming now, and then I'll come back to it one more time to dial it in. Okay, here I'm doing some trimming on my own ahead of time. This first song is only 1.5 minutes long, and I'm 30 seconds in, and I'm still outside. So I can tell that I need to trim back on the intro so that I have time to get into the building. Alright, now there are times where I really love a scene, but it's longer than the pace of my music, so this is a really good trick to include your entire shot. First, I'm going to ignore the music altogether, and I'm just going to focus on the shot that I like. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to split the clip where I want the shot to end. From there, I'm going to ignore the video clip, and now I'm going to focus on the music instead. You're going to see me pause the video where the beat ends, and I'm going to use that as a marker. So I'm going to speed up the clip until the length of the video matches where my line is. Okay, now's the time where you've really got to look at the length of your shots compared to your music, and you have to dig deep into those cuts. I can see that I have more video clips of my building and intro than I do music, so it's time to cut back even more and to focus really on the best scenes. The nice part about this is that all my shots already line up with the music. So as long as I trim with the music still, everything can be rearranged, trimmed, or deleted, and every single shot is still going to line up with the beat. I don't have to re-edit any of it. I'm going to keep cutting until I reach the end of the song, which will transition into the next song and the next scene. Okay, now we're going to be diving into some more advanced musical territory, but this allows you to trim, extend, or transition music seamlessly. When it's done properly, the viewer's experience is going to feel completely immersed, as there are no hard or rough breaks in the music. First, you need to stack your two audio clips into different rows, and you want to align them together wherever you feel the least resistance in the music. So if you're extending or trimming the same song, it's a much easier process because these clips have the same tempo, it's the same beat and everything. It should sound doubled if they're overlapped properly. If it sounds echoed or off, then you're going to need to inch one of those clips over until they sync up with each other. If you're transitioning different songs, you're going to have to feel it out more, especially if the songs are in different keys, which means the pitch of the song, if it sounds higher or lower, and if they're in different tempos, which means the speed of the song. Just feel it out as best as you can, and be sure to play the audio track far back enough that you're sure it sounds right. If you focus on listening to just 2 seconds during that transition, you may not notice how it feels after watching the entire video. So I recommend go back a good 10-15 seconds before your transition and make sure it truly feels right. The final touch that really provides a smooth transition between songs is using the faders. So when you hover your mouse over your audio clip, you're going to see a dot appear on each side at the beginning and at the start of your clip. Those are your faders. If you drag the one that's on the left side towards the right, it's going to fade your music in based on the amount of seconds that you choose. And on the other side, if you drag the fader from the right side towards the left, it's going to fade the music out based on the number of seconds that you choose. The magic of a smooth transition is in how you fade from one song into the next song. It can be difficult finding the right length to do this, but when you do it right, it takes the experience to the next level. So in your previous song, you're going to fade out where the overlap occurs, and then in the area where your new song starts, you're going to fade your audio in. Keep following these steps for each scene until you have a complete video. So to recap the steps that you're going to take, first, you want to trim to the beat of the music. Second, you want to carve out the shots that you want, speed up the shots if necessary to align them with the music. Third, do another sweep through, leaving only your best shots to fill up the time that you've allotted for that particular scene. Number 4, transition your music as needed, and then move on to your next scene. And finally, the cherry on top is to add your transitions. When used correctly, transitions are a clever way to create dynamic movement that feels much more interesting to watch. You want to be mindful of which transitions you use though, and how long you set them to last, because that sets the tone of your video just as much as your music does. If you're using fading transitions that flow one into the next, it feels softer. If you use busy transitions, then the video feels more energetic. The speed of the transition also plays a really big part. A slow transition often feels softer, as opposed to a faster transition feels more dynamic. Here's a quick list of my favorite transitions that I use. So there's mix, pull in, pull out, up, down, left, and right. And I'm going to show you what each one of them looks and feels like now. First, we have the mix transition. This smoothly crossfades between your shots. It's really good for safe and general use transitions, and it's great for slow or medium pacing. Long mixed transitions feel very elegant and are really good for calm, majestic, or flowing scenes. While short transitions feel more abrupt, they're rather versatile though. And if I ever decide I want my transition to feel plain but smooth, I use the mixed transition at a fast pace. Next, we have the pull-in transition. This is going to draw you into the next shot. It's really good for shots that move from exterior into the interior, and when your next shot is moving in a forward direction. Treat it kind of like a zoom in option, but it's also really effective when you use it as if your camera is actually moving towards the next shot. You can really flow one shot into the next and have it feel like it was almost one take when you actually have multiple takes in there. When using the pull-in transition at a long period, it feels soft but really epic at the same time. You can see that that movement is just flowing and it makes it feel very grand as opposed to just using a normal mix. And then on the other side, you have the short pull-in transition. That's going to feel very fast-paced and dynamic. If your next shot is moving faster, that's a really good opportunity to use a short transition that pulls in. And then we have the pull out transition. This is going to pull you away from your last shot, which is the exact opposite of the pull in. This is really good for interior to exterior shots because it feels like you're moving away from inside the building and towards the outside. And it's also good for when your next shot is moving backward because it gives you that preemptive sense of already moving backwards, and then that flows directly into your next shot. And just the same as the pull-in transition, for the pull-out transition, if it's long, it's going to feel soft but epic. And when those transitions are shorter, they're going to feel fast-paced and more dynamic. And finally, we have the directional transitions. This is going to be your up, your down, your left, and your right. Now, the name of the transition is technically what direction it is moving. However, you have to think of it as the opposite because it's going to feel the opposite. Think of it as if you're scrolling on your iPhone, right? If you're at the top of a page and you want to scroll down to the bottom, in order to move downwards, your thumb has to be moving upward. So just remember, if you want your shot to feel like it's moving downward, you're going to use the up transition. If you want it to feel like it's moving upward, use the down transition. If you want it to feel like it's moving towards the right, use the left transition. And if you want it to feel like it's moving towards the left, use the right transition. Transitions are found in the tabs at the top left. All you have to do is find the one that you like and drag and drop it in between the two clips that you want to transition. From there, you'll see a white opaque section appear with a sideways hourglass symbol. That is your transition length. So if you grab it and you bring it towards the center, it will shorten your transition time, and vice versa. If you pull it away from the center, then it'll extend your transition time. All you have to do now is add the rest of your transitions, and you're almost done. The very last thing I do is I just check my audio levels on all my channels. I'll go into the clip of Fallout 76, and on that audio, I'm going to try to balance it with the music so that the in-game noise is evident but not obvious. After that, I'll watch the entire video and I'll look for small adjustments that may be needed. A lot of times I'll end up watching the video 4 or 5 times before I feel like things are ready to go. But once I feel like things are finalized, I'm ready to export it and share it with all you guys. So, with that said, let's go ahead and see what we've created together.